pain is like a blanket. It's heavy, but it keeps us warm. And for some reason, like if you listen to your unaware self-talk, it's incredible at how much nurturing we receive from the negative self-talk.
You're listening to The Mindful Hustle, the podcast where you blend mindset, identity, and manifestation to fuel business and life breakthroughs. I'm Donnie, and if you know deep down that your inner world creates your outer results, welcome home. Here's a powerful truth. Quantum theory and multiple manifestation studies suggest that your beliefs literally collapse potential realities into form. In other words, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. That's the work we do at Reality Realization Institute, aligning your identity with a version of you that already has everything you desire. Book your free strategy call at realityrealization.org/call. Now let's hop in today's podcast. Today's guest is Josh Tynan, a soul guided by passionate curiosity, devoted to the journey of observing, reflecting, unlearning, and rediscovering universal truth. For Josh, the path is about uncovering the authentic godliness within, allowing it to naturally project outward into the world. His contemplations on consciousness and how it expresses itself through all things are rooted in love, illumination, and the playful dance of enlightenment. This episode is a gentle but powerful invitation to explore truth, self, and the sacred joy of simply being. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thank you very much for having me, man.
Yes,
Good to be here.
Love to hear it. So let's start here. Love to go deeper into your origin story. So was there a moment in your life that really things clicked for you, where everything changed? Perhaps a mindset shift or a realization that really reshaped your path?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the same for everyone. For some annoying reason, Source seems to enjoy us learning from our trials and tests and such. So it was more so at the end of a relationship, maybe a year after that, I was kind of hanging on to the past of like maybe 7 years or something like that. And the person that I was seeing at the time, we were still kind of just catching up and making sure that life's still chugging along pretty well. And then as you're going through these attachment things, when you're not necessarily aware, all you want to do is hang on. And it was just a really shitty experience of trying to hang on, but having no idea that you were. And I just remember kind of sitting on the couch one day being like, I had so much anger and so much frustration, but I was also like, geez, it was my first realization of like, she's or this other person isn't hurting me. It's me hurting me because I'm hanging on.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the horse taking off down the road and you're in the stirrup getting dragged along, and it's like, just pull the foot out instead of trying to jump back on the horse. That was kind of my first actual realization of like, I'm actually in control of this, of how I choose to react to my experiences, which really enabled me to come to terms with the outside world is simply just a reflection. It's a projection of the projector, of the self. And until we come to a point in realization that I think who we fundamentally are is the observer, and the more that we can observe, the more that that starts to shift into the self stepping into its authenticity of whatever you're here to experience in that life. And I think those two little wires kind of sparking and connecting and all the rest, that was probably the initial thing of me or becoming aware that it wasn't happening to me, but for me.
So how did that manifest out for you in experience? What types of changes did you experience after you had that realization?
I think it's just, I think you just actually begin to, well, for myself, like, because I think I've always been described as like having an old head on young shoulders. In the sports that I played, I was involved in go-kart racing, both in Australia and internationally. And so that requires a good driver to think much more about it rather than just reacting and going around in a circle. I've always been intrigued in philosophy and enjoyed quotes and stuff like that. But I think the actual self-awareness of the present moment started to take place like from there, and then realizing like, well, if it's not happening to me and it's happening for, then why haven't I been watching? And if it is happening for me, then usually when someone does something for you in love, then it's a purpose or an expression or a sharing from a greater place of being to illuminate something in you. And I think for me, it was just kind of coming to a realization that there is a lot more here than just what we think is going on. And as you said in your intro, fundamentally, I think that's the fundamental of the Kabbalah. All is mental.
Mm-hmm.
And like this whole thing is like it, I mean, yeah, this whole thing is a slippery slope of it's just programs and projections, and but it's not simply just minimized to that. It also has the elaborateness of like absolutely everything exists, and it just depends. Like you're a magnet, what you desire to create, you can, and it just requires you to to align with that, and therefore, so you know what you align with is what you receive.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said in your intro, so the more that you become, or that you have that awareness of like what authenticity might actually mean, then it starts to bring up those fears that you have been subconsciously acting out because you're not aware that there's more to it. So most of us probably live in fear for most of our lives, if not all of it. And we call that common sense. It's not a negative thing. I think it's kind of beautiful in its irony that source is like literally everything is within you. But if you're only looking out of these two eyes, you're going to miss all the magic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I think the beauty in that is kind of like, I mean, everyone's heard of the quotes, know thyself. And I mean, there's a very funny meme where it's like Jesus is talking to his disciples, and it's just an image of him chatting with a couple of his homies. And they're like, "Oh, when did you realize that you were God?" He's like, "Oh, it's quite funny. I was sat down to pray and I realized I was talking to myself." And it's just like, but it's such simple humor, but it's also so incredibly profound because it's like, that's legit. And I think, so for me, I think it just kind of started to unravel this, what was already there, because it's, as you said, everything's already within you. It just depends on if you realize what it is that you're in search of. Because, and I think the beauty of that, like there's just beauty everywhere. Because I think without the seeker realizing that there's anything to be found, nothing ends up taking place yet. And like the moment someone says they're lost, well, that's perfect, because that means you'd actually just begun to be found. Like, I really enjoy writing and stuff. And something I wrote a while back was pain is like a blanket. It's heavy, but it keeps us warm. For some reason, if you listen to your unaware self-talk, it's incredible how much nurturing we receive from the negative self-talk. And then to actually have to look at it, it's nothing wrong with it. It's not bad, or I shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's just information. And I think the moment you start being able to look at emotions as just information as opposed to something that we're supposed to get rid of. It's like, all these people like kill the ego. The ego is literally the definition of the individual experience. So you kill the ego, you're gone. Like you're not here to have this experience of godliness and separation. So I think there's just a beautiful amount of intertwining connectedness that also magically pulls the wool over the eyes, and therefore there's all these illusions that take place, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I love the poetic nature you use to explain these concepts. It's very welcoming. Something I'm curious of is how have you seen this insight, this knowingness expressed out in your life and the magic becoming manifest in your experience? How Have you noticed proofs of your ability to create using that authenticity that you operate from? What has that experience been like for you so far?
I think so far I'm kind of in it at the moment, but I'd say my first experiences of it would only be a couple of years ago. Like I live in Australia. I raced a form of motorsport pretty competitively in kart racing, and I got an opportunity to go to Sweden and race internationally for a team. And that all just kind of, I always had this hunger to like get overseas and race internationally to win a world championship. And most motorsport, well, all motorsport really comes from you've got to have pretty big pockets to do this, unfortunately, because it's such a, especially like karting, it's such a grassroots step into motorsport. And unfortunately, it's just so heavily persuaded by money. But that's the way it is at the moment. And but yes, I kind of come from a pretty humble background. And my dad's a truck driver, and my mum's an aged care nurse. And so, getting to the other side of the world and having that kind of that idea in your head is kind of like, sit down, like you're having a bit of a dream, and that's cool. And I used to work for myself doing like bathroom renovations and stuff like that as a tiler. So it seemed pretty far away. And then I ended up going, I had a race event in Australia. We won that, and we happened to be pitting next to a guy that was Swedish, and he'd obviously raced overseas for a few years. So we've become very good friends. It's all those tiny synchronicities that it's like you don't even realize subconsciously that you're planning it. But the more that you start to see it come together, the more you're like, holy shit, like it wasn't even necessarily, and that's how powerful it is. It's like even being conscious doesn't, I don't know, this is just a contemplation. I'm not saying that this is factual, but I think the slippery slope is, again, I'll refer to your intro, like we don't manifest what we want, we manifest what we are.
Mm-hmm.
The scary thing with that is realizing that no one's going to come to save you but you. Like you can have 1,000 people knock on your door and be like, hey, do this. But until you actually have the willingness to get up and change it, it's not going to change because you're the projector projecting the projection. So anyway, long story short, I had gone overseas. I got this opportunity. I It was during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
and Australia wouldn't let me leave because I didn't want to get the vaccinations and stuff like that. And I I sold my work van. I closed down my business. I got rid of the house that I was renting, and I still hadn't even like I was washing the floors of this house to give it, to hand it back over, and I still hadn't been told that I had got a green light to travel overseas yet. So but I was just like, this is happening. Like I'm committed. There's no way. Like I don't see tomorrow not being this opportunity. So it's kind of like, I think for me, I feel like there is truth in, if we're creating a plan B, then we're already not trusting in plan A. So we're not resonating with it.
Yeah.
And it was a battle. I had talked to people I never even knew there were positions that existed in the country to get over there, but it ended up working out and I got over there. I spent 2.5 years over there and, all these wonderful experiences. Like I got to meet some fantastic people. One thing led to another. I've always been fortunate enough in racing where I adapt very quick to a new track, new tyres, new classes, new whatever. And we just jumped in and I went really well straight away. And then it got seen by someone that ended up taking on a life of its own. I ended up driving for their team for like next to nothing, which rarely happens in motorsport. And then had some success with them. And then had a couple opportunities in Italy, and that's kind of the home of where the main circuits are and all the big teams and the testing. So went there and got seen and had an opportunity, had this person come up to me and was like, you know, saying like, ultimately, what the hell am I doing here? I'm Australian that's been racing in Sweden for a couple of years. Like, what's your plan? And I was just like, I just thought that this was my chance to just vocalize it and put it out there. And I just said, hey, I'm just trying to be seen. I'm trying to be, I want to be picked up by a team, shown what I can do here. I'm here. This is what I'm here to do, is to show whoever is looking that, you know, I've got what it takes to win a world championship. And I'm looking to meet anyone who is that bridge. And it turns out that this guy used to have a bit of financial relationship with a Formula One driver called Marcus Ericsson. He's a Swedish, he used to race Formula One. He's now racing Indy, all the rest. And yeah, so he ended up saying, like, you know, how much do you need? Da da da. Long story short, like, there was a lot that happened in this 2 years, 2.5 years. And it's just one big roller coaster, because it's so easy to sit there and manifest on a couch. But the reality of us coming here to have a human experience is that it seems real. And when it seems real, like, you know, like we're asleep at night, we're dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our vessel is laying on a bed, tucked up and cozy warm, but dream state us is shitting chickens because it's been chased by a dinosaur that's driving a car and, you know, using a bazooka. It's so far fetched, but we're still like, this is dangerous. Let's get out of here. So it's the reality of like confronting everything that means so much to you,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when it probes your deep-seated unconscious, subconscious fears of, like, you know, wanting to be, just say for in my example, like wanting to be a world champion so I could, not that I wasn't already doing that, but so I could, you know, coach the way that I wanted to coach, because I used to coach drivers as well. And I had quite a different perspective on coaching than most. I just wanted to be a humble dude that had success, that had it quite different in motorsport and share it and just kind of be that dude. I remember when I was going through that stuff, I had this like realization, because I used to go and walk out in the forest and just try to connect with me and all the rest. And it's like, I really felt like, you know, we don't have dreams, like dreams have us, and we're the portal that is the opportunity to provide the manifestation of that reality. If we can connect with what we're truly passionate about, then that's kind of where the magic ends up happening. Because like, if someone told me a handful of years ago, like, you're gonna go on the other side of the world, you're gonna race for teams on the other side of the world, you're gonna get to meet a whole bunch of cool people, you're gonna get to coach young dudes and young chicks, and you're going to get to talk to them about, and you're going to see them win races. You're going to see their personal experiences become more expansive in realizing that it's not just about putting your foot on the gas or the brake and cranking the wheel, but it's like your cart, your vehicle is not separate to you. Like, it is you, and how you treat it is how it will treat you. Watching them, just getting to expand on that stuff is magic. And I think that was like a pathway for me to understand, this is kind of what I think I'm here for in this life, is to get to tap into. Long story short, I had the opportunity to get to a world championship without going too much in depth. The guy offered me €20,000. I had to pick my chin off the ground. And the guys that I was with while we're testing in Italy is just looking at me like, dude, like, this does not happen. But we knew that if you could get to this environment, something magic was going to happen, because I'd kind of always been talking about it. Like, I just need to get in that arena, because I wasn't even going to drive. I was actually going to coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then the driver that I was coaching, he had a headache that day, and his father was like, well, you might as well drive. I'm like, don't have to ask me twice, dude. I'm in. So, and it's just trying to get to that arena. And yes, I had that opportunity, was driving super, you know, just doing really well, got seen, had the opportunity. And then over the next 11 months was trying to create that opportunity to actually get the right team, do this, do that, link everything up. But then this is where the belief systems, come into play, and the protective mechanisms and the ancestral cycles and so on and so forth, where it's like you're not just manifesting what you desire, you're also unprogramming what you currently resonate with. And if you can do that in time, well done. If you can't do that in time, well, you're going to experience what feels like a shitstorm. And I was experiencing what felt like a shitstorm. So, yeah, long story short, like the sponsor pulled the pin about 6 weeks from the event, the World Championship, which was going to be in Italy. And I was currently residing in Sweden. Every now and then I would call him up and I was like, are you sure that you're still keen for this? Like, just because I was coming from a place that, like, I had not received a $500 check from someone to say, like, yeah, go and, buy a couple of sets of tires or whatever. 20,000 euro is a lot of money for me. And that disappeared. The team that I was planning to go with, things just weren't lining up. And I was realizing it was because of fears within me, self-doubt, self-criticism, ancestral stuff from my family lineage, my protective mechanisms and all the rest. Long story short, it didn't happen. It didn't happen in the most fashionable way you could possibly think of. But I think in the process of all of that happening, I also got to experience things that I never thought I would get the opportunity to experience, purely because I resonated so deeply with it. Mm-hmm. And then, after that, I'd come back to Australia, and I've literally only been back for like 12 months, and I had a Swedish girlfriend, came back, she started studying here. I got back into just kind of working to make some coin again. And only just recently have I kind of like quit my job, because I'm like, okay, I've gotten ourselves to a point where I don't have to do what I don't want to do anymore. I really want to dive into me and undo or reveal these things that I'm fearful of, so I don't keep doing a job that I don't enjoy just so I make sure I'm safe or we are safe and such. Mm-hmm. And so, to be quite honest, the fact that I'm literally here talking to you right now, dude, is like, I wouldn't say it's the most real, because I've had the last few years of what I got to experience and all the rest. But I think as far as resonating with the fundamental, which is like, I got the opportunity to race because I'm a talented driver. I have different aspects and stuff like this that kind of helps that seem more fruitful to someone. But I think with me talking to you, I mean, even with what you're doing, like, I'm sure you had to overcome fears and coping mechanisms and protective layers and belief systems and all the rest, just to be like, how the hell am I going to press play and someone wants to listen to what I have to say? Or that some, all of these things that we come across that we think is so simple, so easy, but then when it comes to that crunch, well, we're happy to go and eat something and watch a YouTube clip of someone else doing it, because it's, oh yeah, well, I'm just, doing some groundwork. And so I think for me, the realest thing is just meeting a place in me to go, okay, like to keep looking at what I am scared of and the doubts and the fears and the guilt or whatever, that's like, how am I making myself small enough to not be willing to be seen, and eventually meet those things where it's like, what, I'm sick of keeping myself small. I've met a place in me where I'm like, okay, I've outgrown this cage that I've created for myself to keep myself safe. And that, that's a part of ego's role. It's not hating you. It's not locking you in a cage because you're, because it's a tyrant. It's locking you in a cage because you desire it currently. because you're scared to step out of that cage. You're scared to step out of that safety blanket, that mechanism that's like prediction. And so I think just the sheer fact of me being here having a chat with you now is a pretty solid. Like, this is my first podcast ever. You could probably tell I'm just dribbling shit at the moment, and I apologize. But it's actually real that I'm getting to converse with you, something you're passionate about too, about consciousness and peeling back the veils and looking at the poeticness of how it desires to play through us purely for itself to get to expand, you know. And I was thinking last night, I literally get to have a chat with Donnie tomorrow morning. I'm like, this is, I don't know if we're allowed to swear or not, but I'll just say this is sensational. So I would say, like, it doesn't seem that big, perhaps, to people that are listening, even if I was a listener listening to this, but the fact that I'm here willing to create a profile somewhere and say, hey, look, this is what I'm intrigued in. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I feel that I'm here for. And I love to expand on. I'd do it for free because I love it. Like, when I was working for myself as a tiler, like, my mum would say I'm a full-time psychologist and a part-time tiler because I'm just happy to listen or to chat and to whatever. Probably make my jobs go for a little bit longer, but it was worth it. But yeah, I think there's some really beautiful happenings in, especially my last few years, that have taken me on the other side of the world, that have seen me succeed in things that, as far as, being in a country far away from Europe is concerned, is like, how the hell did you do it without even spending that much money?
Yeah.
Like, I think in 2.5 years, or 2 years in regards to racing, I would have spent maybe 10,000 Australian dollars.
Wow.
Considering I was racing people in one season that are spending 500,000 euro in a season. And that's just in karts alone. That wasn't if they were racing Formula 3 or whatever, which go and chuck on a couple extra mil on top of that. So the fact that I got to do those things, and from where I was coming from, where the country wouldn't let me leave, I was selling my van, I was doing all this stuff, and they're like, I haven't even got a green light yet. So I think in all the ways we don't see what we're magnifying with. And I think it takes a really simple eye, and like even just that word connection, like a simple eye, a simple self. Is like we think it's funny how, like, we describe somebody as being simple, a simpleton. We say that that's kind of being stupid, but the irony is that it takes a simple eye to be able to see into a deeper layer, and to keep unveiling those layers. Like, but then when you can see the simplicity of it, the people who can't see it, it's like they're looking through Coke bottle glasses, and they're like, and it just goes straight over their head. And so it's like, it's the simplicity that is actually the magic. The complexity is the illusion.
Mm. Well, I'm just enamored by the story you shared, the journey you've gone through. It's really interesting and intriguing to me to hear individuals who kind of see the art and play of creation of reality weaved into their stories, seeing the synchronicities, having the knowingness of applying the faith, applying the hustle, and marrying the two together to allow for a creation of something greater. So it was really, really nice to hear that expression from you and how it played a role in the path that you've been going down so far. Yeah. Something I'm curious about is what is the vision you have for yourself right now for like the next stage of your life?
Did you say the next vision?
Yeah.
I think I am trying to peel through the forest of that myself. But I think being able to step into more of my authenticity of what I'm here as a soul to express in this life. I think I'm here to share. I think I'm here to express. I think I'm here to elaborate on the inner workings of how consciousness does play through us. I think we have a habit of, I was only kind of contemplating this the other day, like all of these words that we use, descriptions and such. Say, for example, the word healing. It has a great deep amount of power because, I mean, this is very much an age of like, it's such a key word. You type in healing and everyone's like, oh, I'm healing my traumas and this and that and the rest. And it's like, that's fantastic. But I think we don't realize how much words can also, as much as they're doorways to set us free, they're also, that doorway is also kind of stepping you into a room that doesn't have a door or a window. It's like a bit of a dead end, because I think healing is a man-made construct that's like, okay, it's a descriptive word as to what it looks like. But what if healing is just a greater understanding? And to acquire a greater understanding is to be able to receive a deeper amount of information that illuminates the understanding of what was creating that blockage. Because we refer to healing as like, well, you know, healing / wound. The wound is the block. But what if the way that we even look at healing is actually the block within itself? Because then we're suggesting that there's something to be healed. But if we're source embodied in a vessel, what's God looking to heal? It's like there's nothing to heal. It's about becoming aware of self. And I think my natural intrigue is kind of paying attention to perhaps not necessarily the man-made etymology to the word, but the etymology in which perhaps spirit desires us to use the word as a, you know, Google Maps, where it's like I said, if we're so attached to healing, even that word attachment, we find ourselves not actually healing because we're attached to it. Mm-hmm. You know, so we're forcing it. But if we realize that what it is to actually heal is just to illuminate the information that is hiding within the cloak of healing, then fundamentally what we're here to do is expand our awareness. And I think the healing is quite man-made perspective, as opposed to expanding our awareness, illuminating our understanding is purely having a deeper understanding, a deeper connection to the information that is consciousness, divine intelligence, you know, Christ consciousness, however you want to refer to it as. And so I think I have a deep passion and curiosity for getting through my complexity and reaching a deeper simplicity, which I think is the illumination of the illusion. I think the more we can reach simplicity, the more we reach reality. The more that we are connected to the complexity, the more that we continue to play within our illusion, because it serves us, because it's not bad, it's not wrong, we shouldn't be ashamed of it. It's literally source playing through itself, being like, oh yeah, it's so hard. It's such a masterful secret. You know, you can't see through that. It's complex. Like it's too hard. It's too this, it's too that. It's like, you know, that's not, to be skeptical is to keep kicking the shit out of a boat to make sure, well, I need to make sure this boat's safe. But while you keep kicking it, keeps letting water in because you're shaking it rigid. So our actions and reactions from things are information to show where we're not free. Triggers, for example. And so I think that's my next little adventure, which is probably not going to be a little adventure at all. I think it's a slippery slope into the expansiveness. But I'm pretty pumped about it because I've been intrigued and curious for quite a while, but I also am like, I've hidden behind fixing a bathroom, or I've hidden behind and getting to enjoy a conversation with a random folk that is, my little playground of conversation. But I think I have finally reached a point where I'm like, nah, like I don't want to pretend to be safe anymore. Like I'm safe in doing what I'm authentically here to do.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I'm excited to hear more about that journey. If you feel free to give us updates as you go along that journey, what you learn, what you discover, and how that has led to more of an expansion of your being and what you're here for on this earth to be authentically you and to give value through that expression of your essence. But this has been such a powerful conversation. Thank you for sharing so openly about your story, your journey, where you are now, all the experiences and how they've melded together to give you the perspective that you now utilize and are growing from. Something I like to do at the end of these episodes is to ask if you had to give one insight to those out there, the seekers, the creators, those just trying to reach a new level of life while being fulfilled and true to themselves as they do so, what would you tell those out there?
Good question. I would say try to meet the part of you that is not the thinker, but the observer of the thoughts. Because I think fundamentally we're here, we before we become aware, we are the observer, but the observer stays quiet. The observer's taking notes, it's watching, it's kind of waiting for its opportunity to get to have its say in the conversation. And I think the thinker, the doer, is the ego that's trying to go like, you know, I gotta I gotta keep you safe because you don't know how to keep you safe. So let's keep doing the shit. And you keep um you keep trying to make friends, you keep trying to stay safe, you keep trying to adapt to the environment around you to make you feel loved and feel accepted and feel powerful and all these things. But in the accumulation of that is where we also create all of these illusions of what we need in the world to be safe. And then the next part of that adventure is to realize that the observer is actually you, not the thoughts. When the observer gets to put in its suggestion, it gets to question why you do things. Not in a way of negativity, but just saying like, why do you think you're not good enough or that you're not worthy of being heard? Why is that what you have to say not worthy of being heard? Because if you have to say it, then there must be an ear out there that needs to hear it.
Mm.
And I think fundamentally it's just about becoming more aware of the self that we come from, that it's not actually our intuition, it's our coping mechanism, which is the voice of ego that's just trying to keep us safe.
Mhm.
And I'm going to paraphrase the shit out of this, but ultimately it's like we don't buy a boat to keep it in the dock. We buy a boat to go and to sail the seas and to experience the ocean.
Mhm.
I mean, fundamentally, I'm not saying anything different of know thyself, just get in touch with you. But I think just listening to or being able to have the power, the presence of our presentness and our awareness to observe what we're hearing and then question that. Because I think we don't realize how much we let ourselves get away with because it keeps us safe. Because if someone questions our reality, well, then it's like having the torch shone in the eyes. And it makes the whole vessel go, oh, like, don't look at me, like, don't look here, don't question me. And I think that's exactly what we need, because then it shines a light on the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
But the beauty of this experience is that, ironically, the shadow is what holds the light. It's just waiting for us to see it. And when we bring our attention to it, we are then the light, bringing that awareness to the shadow that then exposes the information waiting to be illuminated. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I love that insight. Thank you for sharing it with the world.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we're going to have heaps more chats.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
probably going to block me. So,
Before we wrap, where can listeners connect with you and learn more about what you're doing right now, follow you in your journey, hear more of your insights?
at the moment, you literally have to write me a letter on pen and paper and get my address, because I'm still, at the moment, I'm still being a bit of I'm still hiding in my shadows as far as not creating anything on social media or anything like that. I let it, yeah, unfortunately at the moment, I have been thinking about just starting a YouTube thing, purely just to talk out the contemplations.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, like, if someone wants to like reach out, then just hit me up on Facebook and we chat on Messenger. It's easy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't have anything like that at the moment. I'm still going through my show stuff and my fear stuff and all the rest. But I'm closer than ever of revealing that stuff. So yeah, anyone wants to chat, hit me up on Facebook, and maybe eventually, pretty soon, I will create something and we'll link lines once again.
Very excited to see it. The world is waiting for it. Well, thank you again, Josh, for sharing such real and thoughtful perspectives. And to all of you out there tuning in, remember, you don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. So if you want to change your results, start by becoming the version of you who already has them. This is the Mindful Hustle. Until next time, be bold, be intentional, and keep realizing your reality.